we should be live. Looks like we're
Are
working.
we live? I don't know.
I see a blank screen, but
now
it does
I
say...
think we're live.
Yes, we are, in fact. We are definitely alive. Look at that.
We
How
made it for
marvellous.
8 o'clock, too. How about
Yeah,
that, peeps?
Well, you know, it's been a
right.
fun-filled and packed day, as the saying goes. So thank you for
Yay,
joining
book
us, you
club.
wonderful peeps out there. Gosh, we're up to chapter 8 already, aren't we?
Yeah,
Which is
we're almost through. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do next.
I
because
don't
I
know.
what we're going to do next.
Could write another book, I suppose. I
Well,
don't know.
I'm going to put a little candle on.
I think
so we
you
have
should.
a little
That would be nice.
ambiance.
Ambiance is always good. We like our ambiance. Now, would you like me to start, or would you like to start?
Yeah, you go ahead. if
I
you
shall
like.
start then. So this is
get
chapter
my
8, and in
spectacles
case you're wondering, if you're just joining us for the first time, this is indeed our book. It's called Simply Wicca, a beginner's guide to the craft of the wise. It's not a beginner's guide.
It's not really a beginner's guide. It is written very simply.
It's accessible, you know. Being immodest, the idea is you can pick it up and read it, and you want to keep reading it, which is
sometimes you have to really think about it.
But what's in here is not trite, and it's not just regurgitated whatever either. So there. Anyway, so we're up to chapter 8, which is a place between the worlds. Now, in this chapter, we look at the process of casting a ritual circle. That place between the worlds where we commune with our gods and where magic abounds. We discuss the different types of ritual and detail the steps necessary to cast and, if you like, uncast a sacred circle. Finally, we again consider the importance of harnessing the available astrological and elemental energies to enhance the effectiveness of your magic. Although magical circles can take on many guises, generally within the craft and certainly within our own tradition, there really are just two different kinds of ritual. A Sabbat working, which honours the wheel of the year and typically performs sympathetic magic, mythic role-playing and basically celebrating the season.
Right, more like a holy day.
Yes, exactly thus. And Espat workings, which honour the cycles of the moon. And this is where we perform magic or carry out initiation rites and other rites of passage, right? So, there you go.
So you kind of see the Espats is a place where you can do working for yourself or your coven. And the Sabbats are where you serve the old gods and turn the wheel.
She's not familiar with the material at all, as you can see. The primary distinction
sorry.
is that the practical magic is not normally worked at a Sabbat, as this is a time to simply celebrate and honour our deities. Unless there is a pressing emergency, initiation, rites of passage and general practical magic are best accomplished at the appropriate lunar phase, i.e. Espat. Should an Espat conflict with a Sabbat, for example, how appropriate, we're reading it right now. For example, a full moon on Calan Hav or Calan Mai or Beltane, if you want to use what most people call it, then the Sabbat takes precedence, always, yeah? Although it's quite likely that the available energies of this Sabbat will be considerably enhanced by the power of the full moon. So, whether you're holding a Sabbat or an Espat, both rituals also provide ideal opportunities to build connections with your deities.
You could do two separate rituals if you wanted.
I was just going to say that, but you got there before me. So yeah, if you have a pressing need, do two separate rituals. There's no reason at all. But make sure you honour your Sabbat, you know, because that's important. That's how we turn the wheel. And then if you have a pressing need, do another circle.
Like you could have them all within one sacred space, but give your Sabbat rite precedence and then work magic.
Yes.
Don't forget to honor the holy day.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And again, this is our tradition.
Yeah,
and,
your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
But we can only speak from our tradition, can't we, if you think about it? So a circle is a sacred space. You should always be mindful of the sanctity of the magical circle and treat it with appropriate reverence. Casting a circle is one of the most sacred acts of magic performed by a practitioner of the craft. It is a place between the worlds, a time without time, to which you invite your most honoured guests. Honestly, the mundane has no place here. Never cast a circle without reason. To do so would be inherently disrespectful to the elementals, deities, and spiritual energies you summon to your right.
But now, what happens if you want to learn how to do it?
Well, okay.
Then do it, but meditate.
Yes.
Do something once you've got them there, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's not to say your reasons for casting a circle need to be grandiose in their design. It's perfectly okay if all you need to do is have a safe and sacred space in which to meditate and to connect with your deity. But above all, be responsible. Don't just cast a circle for poops and giggles. They wouldn't let us put shits and giggles in the book, but that's what we would have said. It's supposed to be kid-friendly, you know what I'm saying? It's never a good idea to antagonise the gods. You know, it's like playing, what do they call it? They call it postman's knock in the UK, but where you run up and ring somebody's doorbell and just run away.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody will tell us when we'll think about it. But yeah, it's, you think about it. You know what? You've summoned me. What do you want? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? You know. Mm-hmm. So you can certainly offer a prayer of gratitude, pull a card for inspiration, or even make a daily offering at your sacred altar without the need to cast a circle. It's not necessary to cast for every occasion, but be mindful if you are working any kind of practical magic, such as burning a candle, for example, with intent, you should cast a circle for the safety and efficacy of your work.
Now, that doesn't mean you have to do the entire huge circle, but you should create some sort of sacred and safe space for your magic. All acts of magic, intentional or sympathetic, should be performed within a sacred protection of a cast circle. A circle is a place between the worlds, and what happens there affects all the worlds.
Doesn't it just? Pray continue.
The process of casting a circle. Now again, this is in our tradition, and when you visit other groups, they may have things in different order. But let's take a look at how we actually go about creating a place between the worlds. What kind of work we might perform within it, and when we're done, returning it all back to the mundane. Because, you know, we have this beautiful magical room, but some people have to set up their altar maybe on the kitchen table, and they would need to return it back to a mundane space for other people to come in and eat dinner.
Eat dinner, yeah, that's kind of important too.
As with anything, there are a number of steps to the process, and the order in which they are performed is important. Think about making a cup of tea.
Yes.
If you can't boil the water until you've filled the kettle, but you have to find a kettle, okay.
Yeah.
So steps.
You need a stove or something to boil the kettle up.
The order of business.
Yes.
Consecration, as above, so below. Calling the quarters. Casting a circle. Invoking the goddess. Invoking the god. Chalice and blade, which is usually done in kind. The working itself, the turning of the wheel or the magic. Cakes and ale, if you want to use them for grounding. Or you could have put cakes and ale prior to the magic if you want to use them for magical enhancement. Then release the god, release the goddess, release the quarters, and return and open the circle, returning things to the mundane. Mm-hmm. So let's have a closer look at each of these steps. What they stand for, what's involved. How do we go about doing them? The order of business. Well, the first thing you might want to do when you are seated there or have folks that are going to do this with you is declare the intention. Say it out loud. You know, many times we would say, hi everybody, welcome to the Taurus new moon. Our order of business tonight is to go and visit Rhiannon. You know, we would make a statement like, or good evening everybody, it's our Callan Mai Beltane, here's what to expect tonight. Say it out loud. It helps you to have a specific idea of the work you wish to achieve in that sacred space. It'll get everybody on the same track, or it'll just get you focused. Speaking your intention can help you to be mindful It can help you to be focused and stick with the program, especially if you're working with other people. You know, like aerobics, you'll have to know what the dance is.
It's sort of herding cats, though, isn't it?
If everyone talks about the mundane things, like what they had for dinner or what the last movie was they saw, what are they watching on Netflix, blah, 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 during the time that you're trying to get everybody to focus, it may dissipate the energy you have worked so hard to raise. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about that.
Go for it.
We used to not allow anyone into our annex, the sacred space, prior to being smudged in. And over time, we have allowed people to go in and like put their stuff at a seat. And then we've realized recently that people aren't just putting their stuff and holding a seat, they're staying in there. And they're talking about the mundane. And they're being very loud. And, you know, so I've been mindful to go out prior when the seats are being set up, to go out prior and try to anchor the energy and create a sacred space for ritual. And I'm getting very close to saying that you can't go in prior to circle again, because people are just so loud and disruptive. I'm really sorry. I have my phone on because I'm waiting for a really important phone call, but I'll turn it off. But see, that's very disruptive, and this is what's going on in there. People are having these conversations about the mundane, and it's really hard to continue to hold that energy. So I think we might go back to an old rule that is not going in until everybody goes in.
Yeah, but that said, what we do, though, is we throw everybody out. So they all go out of the sacred space, or they go out of the space, and then we bring them in. And we're going to talk about, sort of consecration and all that kind of stuff in a bit.
Yeah, they have to go back out and be smudged.
Yeah.
But the space itself is now
a little bit disruptive.
as calm as it was.
Yeah, you wouldn't think of doing that in a church, would you? You know what I mean?
Yelling as loud as you could across the aisle to somebody else. All right. Consecration, as above, so below. Once everyone is smudged in and seated, then the magic is introduced, and the participants are cleansed and cleared of any of that mundane that they might have brought in with them, right? So there's a cleansing and clearing outside the door with air and fire, and then they come in, and that energy is a signal to release and de-stress and get ready for the magic at hand. In our experience, the best way of doing this is to actually use all four of the elements. If you have a male or female working partnership, the male could go around the circle and cleanse with smoke and incense or sage smudge stick. That's the air and fire. And next, the priestess or female partner would go around and asperge with salted water. Thereby, they have had all four of the elements in their cleansing.
Which Mother Lisa? Why would the guy do the air and fire, and why would the woman do the water and earth?
Well, air and fire are considered masculine elements, and water and earth feminine elements. And sometimes, like I said, we'll do the smudging outside to try to help people not bring in the mundane. So we're going to try to get back to that. If you don't have a partner and you're working as the leader by yourself, you could certainly go around twice. By the power of the elements four, negativity shall be no more. You could even have the participants cleanse and clear themselves by passing around the incense or a salted water bowl. Be creative. Adapt as necessary. But just be mindful to clear heart, mind, and hands before a magical working. So as people might watch me after I spurge everybody, I do my heart, hands, and third eye before I put the bowl back on the altar. Then once that is done, we are ready to call the quarters. You might also notice that we do asperge the quarters. We now set out creating our sacred space between the worlds. To begin the process, We start in public in the east and call the direction. Be mindful that you are calling the element, the elementals, and the guardians of the watchtower. So try to craft your wording to include them all. We've included our tradition's invocation a little later on in this section, and you're most welcome to use them if you'd like. Whatever format you choose for your calls, though, try to be consistent in each quarter, using the words that work to call upon the energies of each specific direction, and end your phrase with, "So mote it be." You can call all 4 directions yourself. If you're working in a group, you could have a different person call each direction, but we would strongly suggest that you don't simply let people wing it, but instead put in some prior planning, some preparation to ensure that the calls are very similar, only changing things that might pertain to that specific or particular element or energy being called. Trust us, you don't want to insult a direction by having a bardic poem be called to one that's elaborate as an invitation, only to be followed by someone who isn't particularly talented or invested say, "Yeah, hey Earth, come on, be here now." It's important to have congruent energies in order to create the well-balanced circle.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not quite comfortable with writing your own calls, you can certainly work with something like Circle in a Box. You can get that on iTunes. The calls are easy to follow, and you won't have a different person hold or call a space for each element. You could have, a different person. Jesus.
Words!
Or if you want to take a more active role in the process, you can do the calls that we use in our tradition.
Which we put here, but we're going to kind of skip over that because we don't want to invoke a circle right now. But if you're, want to know what goes on.
But basically they call to the guardians, and then that watchtower is inserted, whether it's whatever direction, eastern, northern, whatever. Then the element, and we ask that element to bring forth elemental power. Then we call again to the guardians and tell them we seek their presence, and we repeat their direction again and say, "So mote it be."
We do. And just as a tiny little aside here, if you will, the reason we say "so mote it be," not "blessed be," when we're invoking is because we actually are saying, as I say it, so it is, Mm-hmm. So in other words, I'm speaking into being here. So that's where so I know we'll get into this more where we get into the process of circle casting, certainly as we get into ritual a lot more, but we may even mention it at the end of this chapter.
So mote it be is a proclamation kind of a thing.
Whereas blessed be is a far more appropriate thing when you're releasing
or
a direction.
thanking.
So thank you very much, be blessed on your journey kind of thing, So, do you want me to continue, or do you want to finish this section? What do you want to do?
I just read so you can get to casting.
All right.
Starting in the east, turn your face to that direction. When inviting the energy, and light a watchtower candle, guide them in. Pause for a moment. Pause for a moment for each call, so you get a sense. Allow yourself to feel that energy come in. And be sure to close your circle after calling all the directions by turning your face again to the direction you started with. If not, you're going to have a Pac-Man, right? If you start here and you go around to here, you've got that space, right? So you want to just bow to the last to seal the circle. All right.
So there you have it. Perfect. So now we move on to casting the circle. So if you're working in a group, you should cast your circle in the traditional manner, which is hand to hand. To do this, participants position their hands so their thumbs are facing left. This causes your left palm to be facing up and your right palm to be facing down. The circle is cast in a diosal, meaning clockwise manner. Each person addresses the one on their left. The individual who begins the cast is normally directly to the left of the group's leader. They offer their left hand, palm facing up to the person on their left, making eye contact. That's very important. And then they say, I cast this circle hand to hand.
And that person's going to get a woos of energy.
The next person places their right hand palm down over the offered hand and lowering their arm to join hands feels the energy pass. This is then repeated by each person in turn, continuing around until it comes full circle to the group's leader, who makes the final link and declares the circle cast. Now, if you're working alone, you can't really cast a circle hand to hand. So you might want to use your athame or a cord or ritual salt, providing it's safe for animals. That's very important, assuming you share your space with animals, and we find most witches do somehow. To designate a ring around your working area where you're going to be. All right. So you now have a suitable place in which to invite the old gods. Now, we are aware of certain groups who call the god and goddess before casting a circle.
You can do whatever you want,
However, we don't really feel comfortable with this. As, to be honest, you would not invite people to come over if your home wasn't fit to receive them. If you think about it, just throw the cushions off there, just never mind
no
that
place
pile
for
of
them
newspapers,
to sit, just let them
whatever,
in,
And if you think about it, of all the visitors you are ever likely to welcome, the Lord and Lady surely must be the most honoured of your guests. So we would suggest, with respect, it is better to build your place between the worlds before you invite them, rather than to expect them to hang around while you construct a suitable abode. Just our 2 cents there, if you will. I think you should do this one.
I think we should do this now, yes. All right. Invoking the goddess. This is usually done by the person acting as the priestess. Once received, the person is the go-between, meaning that the person represents the goddess now to the group, but also the group to the goddess. If you're working by yourself, you should still call the energies of the goddess into your sacred space. Your invocation could be silent and private or spoken out loud, whichever you prefer. And we actually got permission from the Doreen Valiente Foundation to print the traditional charge of the goddess in our book. We would never have put something in print that belonged to someone else without permission. In our tradition, we often read the charge as part of our invocation.
We got time. I think you can afford to do it.
Oh, yeah. So just, if you want to, close your eyes and let yourself be open to receiving energy from the goddess right now. Now listen to the words of the Great Mother, who was of old also called among men Artemis, Astarte, Athena, Dione, Melusine, Aphrodite, Caridwen, Diana, Adenrod, Isis, Brede, and by many other names. Whenever ye have need of anything, once in a month, and better it be when the moon is full, then shall ye assemble in some secret place and adore the spirit of me, who am the queen of all witcheries. There shall ye assemble, ye who are fain to learn all sorcery, yet have not won its deepest secrets. To these I will teach things that are as yet unknown. And ye shall be free from slavery, and as a sign that you are really free, you shall be naked in your rights, and you shall dance and sing and feast and make music and love, all in my praise. For mine is the ecstasy of the spirit, and mine is also the joy upon earth, for my law is love unto all beings. Keep pure your highest ideal, strive ever toward it. Let not stop you, nor turn you aside. For mine is the secret door which opens upon the land of youth, and mine is the cup of wine, the cup of life, and the cauldron of Caridwen, which is the holy grail of immortality. I am the gracious goddess who gives the gift of joy unto the heart. Upon earth I give the knowledge of the Spirit eternal, And beyond death I give peace and freedom and reunion with those who have gone before. Nor do I demand sacrifice, for behold, I am the mother of all living, and my love is poured out upon the earth. Hear ye the words of the star goddess. She, in the dust of whose feet are the hosts of heaven, whose body encircleth the universe. I, who am the beauty of the green earth and the white moon among the stars, and the mysteries of the waters, and the heart's desire. Call unto thy soul, and arise and come unto me. For I am the soul of nature, who giveth life to the universe, and from me all things proceed, and unto me all things return. And before my face, beloved of gods and mortals, thine innermost divine self shall be unfolded in the rapture of infinite joy. Let my worship be in the heart that rejoices, for behold, all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals, and therefore let there be beauty and strength, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence within you. And thou who thinkest to seek for me, know that thy seeking and yearning shall avail ye not, unless you knoweth this mystery. For if that which you seekest thou findest not within thee, thou wilt never find it without. For behold, I have been with you from the beginning, and I am that which is attained at the end of desire.
It was so beautiful.
So I just want to make a couple of small things more apparent.
Please.
When you read these words, think about what they mean in a deeper sense. Where it says, ye shall be naked in your rights, it doesn't necessarily mean that you shall not have any clothing on. It means you have no secrets from the goddess. That you're stripped down to who you really are with no pretense.
Transparency.
And think of these couplets, beauty and strength, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence, and seek a balance of those things and an understanding of what they truly mean.
Are we allowed a little aside here?
If you'd like.
One of the things that we consider ourselves ridiculously privileged to have seen. Some of you know that one of the trustees of the Doreen Valiente Foundation for the longest while was a fellow by the name of Ashley Mortimer. Lovely, lovely guy. And when we got to know him when we were working on this book. We consulted with him a lot for permission to cite all of Doreen's work. And he very kindly offered to come over and surprised us by bringing quite a few of the artifacts from the Doreen Valiente collection with him.
That was so lovely.
And it's the first time they'd ever been to the United States. And one of the things that Lisa, if I can speak for you, which I probably can't, found most moving was there was this beautiful little pamphlet which was actually edited by Ross Nichols.
All right, so
and published by the Atlantis bookstore.
When
wasn't
we
it?
talked in the beginning, we talked about how Doreen, I'm not sure, but I think we talked to you in the book club about how Doreen met Gerald. She used to go and get this little blog, basically, or a book that was a pamphlet that was published at the Atlantic bookstore and edited by Ross Nichols, and she found an ad by Gerald Gardner. But prior to that, she had been reading these little pamphlets. Then her personal collection of them, a few of them, were brought here. And I was allowed to look at these, and they were like looking at something that was written by Dion Fortune, like you're looking through these. And I realized, and it's pointed out, I said, look, in the edge here, in her handwriting, are the couplets. So she had been reading this Kabbalistic work, and she had pulled out these virtues and vices that she felt spoke to the craft.
Beauty and strength.
Being
honor and humility.
Being inspired by the virtues and vice of Kabbalah. I said, look, these are Doreen's couplets. It was just the most amazing experience. And we also got to see the silver bracelet that Gerald had made for her for her first degree, and we got to see her pentacle. We got to hold her pentacle and her big spectacles, amongst a bunch of other things that it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. So
Profound.
thank you for sharing that.
No, profoundly
Or
moving.
making me share that.
We're just stupidly lucky.
But those couplets are really important. I think we are very blessed and lucky, but I think that we have lived a life in service. We have held circle on a regular basis for over 25 years. You know.
I know, and I'm hoping we're able to do the same thing. But we were able to take people down into the when people get very close to graduation in Craft of the Wise, which takes a year and a day to do. It's so moving to be able to join together hand in hand on hallowed ground where so many witches have stood before, and it's a beautiful and moving thing. And it's like
We talk about our sacred space outside. There have been circles on that property since 1997. Obviously, I held circles prior to meeting Anton, and he came in 19.
I'm a newcomer.
He came in 98.
I am.
But we have been on that property holding sacred ritual for a long time.
26 years.
And we held ritual in the UK and left a court there and a Reiki lineage. But anyway, we're digressing. Time for the God.
Time for the God. We shall move on, otherwise
this
it'll
is
be
a big
Tuesday.
chapter.
It'll be Tuesday before we know it. Okay, so invoking the God. Now, this is usually done by the person acting as priest. As with the goddess, the person becomes the go-between. Once received, they represent the God to the group and the group to the God. Again, if you're working by yourself, you should still call the energies of the God into your sacred space. As before, your invocation could be silent and private or spoken out loud, whichever you prefer. Within our tradition, we also read the Charge of the God, a poem, to be fair, heavily influenced by and very much in the style of Doreen's Charge of the Goddess. Although its origins are unknown, and we did try and track it down, it makes a fitting part of the Charge of the Goddess in ritual. There are several versions in existence if you go around, but the one we use in our rituals, we largely rewrote ourselves to suit our tradition.
And to flow a lot closer to the Charge of the Goddess. Right?
So we
again, a balance, not having something spectacular for her and then just, hey, you come here, you know.
So whilst we pulled parts from otherwhere, we also added a lot ourselves, and it really is an homage to Doreen, as it's very much in her style. You would be forgiven for thinking she might have written it, but she didn't. Okay. Now listen to the words of the antlered God, the guardian of all things wild and free, spark of life, yet keeper of the gates of death, whose call all must answer. I am the fire within your heart, the yearning of your soul. I am the hunter of knowledge and the seeker of the holy quest. I who stand in the darkness of light. I am he whom you have called death. But I am also the seed of life, the joy of existence, the mirth in laughter and the sparkle within thine eyes. I am the consort, mate and son of she whom we adore. Call forth to me with pure intent and love in thine heart, and I shall surely answer. Heed my call, beloved ones. Come unto me and learn the secrets of death and peace. I am the fruit upon the trees and the corn at harvest, he who gives of himself so that others may live. I am he who leads you home, scourge and flame, blade and blood, heart and humour, life and death. These are mine and gifts to thee. Call unto me in the forest wild and on hilltop bare, and seek me in the darkness bright. I, who have been called Pan, Hern, Osiris, Hades, Cununus, Gwyn ap Neith, and by many other names, speak to thee in thy search. Come, dance and sing, come, live and smile, for behold, this is my worship. You are my children, and I am thy father. On swift night wings it is I who lay you at the mother's feet to be reborn and to return again. I too lay within her womb, planted in summer seed to live on after my wintry death. For without planting there can be no harvest, without winter there can be no spring, and without death there can be no life. But thou who thinkst to seek me, know that I am the untamed wind, the fury of the storm and the passion within your soul. Seek me with pride and humility. Seek me with strength and tenderness. But seek me best with only love in thine heart. For this truly is my path, manifest in the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, as her great wheel turns the seasons. Celebrate the peak of my power as the midsummer sun ascends to its zenith. Yet hear my call on midwinter's night, and we shall stand together and await the sun's rebirth. So there. And we've just cited this as Lisa Stewart, Circle in the Box, invoking the charge of the god, charge of the Horn God, New York, Esoteric Productions, Regal Records, 2012. If you don't own Circle in a Box, please consider getting it. It's rather good.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
If working in a group,
reading these charges as part of your invocations can be profoundly moving and will definitely serve to intensify the focus of your circle. Reading them out loud can also help in solitary practice, as it allows you to feel a greater connection to both the god and the goddess, and be secure in the knowledge that they have entered your sacred space to offer their energies for your magical working. That said, you're not obligated to read these charges. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from writing your own. If you feel so moved, in fact, we'd wholeheartedly encourage you to do it.
build your own tradition. Yeah.
We're sure the old gods love to be honoured in new ways.
Chalice and blade. This is performed by placing or inserting the athame into the chalice as a representation of the great rite, the sacred coupling of the god and goddess from which all life emanates. Although there are those that differ, within our tradition, the male, the person hosting the god, holds the blade as it represents all things masculine, the energies associated, like we said, with the masculine, air and fire, and it is the force, right? The priestess holds the chalice, which represents the feminine vessel, the form for that force, the energies of water and earth. So the priestess will pick up the athame off the altar and hand it to the priest, signifying her willingness to receive him. This should be on her terms. A god would not force himself on a goddess. The priestess offers up the chalice and says, "Without him, there could be no darkness." He then raises his athame above the chalice and turns the point downward to face the opening of the sacred cup, saying, "Without her, there could be no light." He plunges the blade into the chalice, and together they say, "Together they make this rite complete." This symbolic act is a form of sympathetic magic, combining their energy and creating fertility or fruitfulness for the ritual working itself. Right? Seed, womb, form, and force. When working as a solitary, it probably isn't normal in our tradition for you to perform chalice and blade by yourself.
It's kind of a bit odd.
Instead, we recommend lying your athame flat over the top of your cup, forming a Celtic cross. And again, a symbol of the great union of the god and goddess. And we put a picture
There you go.
of that.
Absolutely. It looks, this is your Celtic cross hidden in plain sight. A lot of people don't recognise that, but there you go. Hide it in plain sight. So, working the magic now is the next thing. So, this is either going to be turning the wheel or practical magic. So, this is the very reason you cast your circle in the first place. So, it's possibly the most important part of the ritual. If you're working in a group, it certainly wouldn't hurt to explain the purpose of the working once again. For example, tonight we will work with the energies of the Cancer full moon, and the focus is going to be on healing. We're going to do healing for whatever, you know. Hopefully all within your circle is suitably focused and ready, as now you've brought all the elements, elementals, the god and goddess together into your sacred space between the worlds. Their energies are now combined and available to assist in your quest, and the working can begin. So long as it fits within the intention of the ritual, the world is your oyster. You might do spell work, a meditation or astral journey, perhaps perform group divination or healing, enact a mythic roleplay, or just simply honour your gods in a Sabbath rite.
Cakes and ale. Although called cakes and ale, this stuff doesn't actually need to have either of them. You can use whatever food or beverage combination works for you. It could well be a small cake or a cookie that you've baked yourself, or even a piece of fresh fruit or a few nuts. The ale part could also just be water, juice, milk, or wine, although we would strongly counsel against using any kind of alcoholic beverage when folks will need to drive home, or if you don't know if someone's in recovery.
Yeah, exactly. Know what you're doing, hey?
In our tradition, we typically use cakes and ale for grounding. The cakes and ale are blessed with a simple statement: may we never hunger, may we never thirst, may we always have enough to share. We often raise considerable energy within our working itself, much like accumulating a bit of a static charge. The eating and drinking are a great way of grounding out some of the excess energy which is returned harmlessly to the earth. Cakes and ale taken together also allow us to reconnect to our physical bodies. Although this is our usual manner of using cakes and ale in public for the majority of our rites and rituals, on occasion we would use them as a magical embodiment of the god and goddess, blessing them with after chalice and blade, and then ingested by the participants as sort of a underdog secret energy pill.
That's one way of looking at it.
To give an added boost to the magic of the magical energy available.
So now
we've worked our magic.
Now it's time to start putting things back, so to speak, returning to the mundane, if you will. So you kind of work in the reverse order, oddly enough. So we're going to release the god and goddess, which is parts 10 and 11. So after the working is complete and before you dismantle your circle, it is time to thank and release your deities. The order in which they're released is often open to debate. For there are those who feel it should be the reverse of how they were called, last in, first out kind of thing. And those who feel the god should always be released last and remain in the role of protector until the goddess has safely departed the rite. Whatever feels right to you is the way you should go, for even within our own tradition, the priestess representing the goddess is the one who decides who should leave first. It's entirely her call. And it does vary, depends on what energies we've been working with and all that kind of stuff. So, as you speak your words of devocation with sincere gratitude for the insistence they have given you, feel them leaving the circle and returning whence from where they came, but remaining forever in your heart as part of your magical family.
And there's where we say, blessed be.
We do say blessed.
Like we would say something like, Great Mother Caridwen, thank you for joining us tonight. We release you now, but we ask that you remain forever in our hearts. Go in peace, go in love. Blessed be.
Blessed be. So there you go. Want to go?
Releasing quarters. Within our tradition, we tend to go in the reverse order for the majority of our gatherings. Again, that is to say, we begin our releasing in the north and move widdershins or counterclockwise around the circle. We are always mindful to turn and bow again to the north to thereby close the circle completely, not having a Pac-Man. In order to maintain a balanced energy within the rite, we release each direction, and they again should not be too different from how you called them. And in the same vein, each release should be largely consistent. Again, just varying their attributes, not having one be a bardic release and the other be bye.
Thanks.
As before, you certainly could write your own, and again, if you don't know where to start, you can always use the ones from our gatherings, which again addresses the elements, the elementals. It gives thanks. It says, go now. It doesn't say stay if you want, because you don't want them hanging around. hail, farewell, and blessed be. And we would go through each direction and then bow to be mindful. Again, blessed be is more of a thank you, and so mote it be is more of a command, or, and it is.
Yeah.
So it might be a little rude to say go, so mote it be. Like, I command you to go. That's kind of rude.
Yeah, you
you do want to say, blessed be. It's more of like a thank you for participating, and, more appropriate for a farewell.
It's polite. It's polite, is it not?
Yes.
So now we get to return to the mundane. That is the act of dissolving the circle. Some call it opening and some others call it closing, but the idea is exactly the same, whatever you call it.
You're releasing.
You're releasing the space that existed between the worlds and taking it back to the mundane. And you require any non-physical entities who gathered and lent their energies to your right to go back from whence they came. In our tradition, the priestess declares, "Let all spirits and elementals attracted to this rite be on their way now, harming none. Merry meet, merry part, merry meet again." More often than not, we then tend to sing the traditional circle songs, love, peace, joy, you know what I mean? And then yell blessed be rather loudly at the end and clap a few times to dissipate any excess energy. As before, you can always use circle in a box to release the energies in your circle and return it to the mundane. You can even sing along if you like. That said, releasing the energy is only part of the process. Unless you have the luxury of a dedicated temple or similar space, you must also return the physical space back to the mundane, which means properly cleaning and storing your tools, sweeping any ritual salt or other bits and bobs that found their way to the floor during the ritual, and generally tidying up the place so that the only remnant of your magical working is what's written in your Book of Shadows, which, incidentally, is how it gets its name.
Some thoughts on circle casting. We've already established that a circle should never be cast without a good reason, although casting a circle can simply be done again for meditation or journey work, or maybe you want a specific space that's safe to do divination. Because we often have magic in mind, here is a little more information on spell working. Although there are all manners of magical workings, they basically boil down to just 4 things. People want to do some sort of love or emotional work. They want to do some sort of prosperity kind of career or money work. They want to do some sort of healing, or they would like to do something more spiritual like divination or get themselves closer to a deity. From the information we've provided earlier, think about what astrological energies are available to you at the time of your working. Remember to check the moon phase and adjust your spell to work with the energy at hand. If the moon is waxing, great time to build something. If the moon is waning, much more suited to releasing. You may also want to create your spells to work with the energy of the elements. For example, we know from reading through chapter 3 that on the elements that earth works well to create stability. So using this energy would be great for a prosperity spell to build a firm foundation and bring in wealth. By the same token, fire might be more strongly associated with passion, water with emotion. 2 great elements for love, water and fire. The element of air more connected to the intellect or inspiration, serving as a great starting point for a spell to awaken spiritual growth or do divination. In determining which elemental energies are available, looking at which sign the moon is currently occupying would be a great help. The air signs are Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Fire, Aries, Leo, and Sag. Water, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Earth, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. By using elemental energies offered by these signs, we can certainly enhance our work.
And before we get into ethics, I just want to mention there's if you do our Craft of the Wise class, we go a lot deeper into this and we start to look at, the fixed, the cardinal, the fixed, and the mutable signs, and you hopefully will be able to look up and know, oh, when was my last full moon? What quarter is it? And know exactly,
And
without referring to a ephemeris.
This really should have been Gemini, Libra, Aquarius.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. We put them in whatever order. I think they did it alphabetically. I don't know.
Oh, I think maybe.
They are alphabetical, aren't they? Yeah, they are.
But that's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, never mind.
It's who are we to know about these things?
We're just the authors.
We're just we we had the occasional heart-to-heart with our editor.
Anyway,
we
go.
So,
a brief word about ethics.
So yeah, those knowing what qualities and what energies are available to you to work with can really enhance the efficacy of your magical work. So. Ethics. Oh boy, do we talk about ethics, yeah? So by now you're starting to know things, all right? And with knowledge comes power. And in fact, some might say you are beginning to learn things way beyond the ken of most people. If you've made it this far in the book, you definitely have. All right? Indeed, great knowledge comes with great power. But great power also comes with great responsibility. And when it comes to magic, that's certainly no exception there. The path of self-gratification at the expense of all others is the path of ruin. In our tradition, we strive to keep pure our highest ideal and work ever toward it. We would only perform healing or protection spells on behalf of another person with their permission, and even then we would be mindful to ask that it be for the highest good of all. We would not presume to understand exactly what constitutes the highest good, as we can never see the whole picture.
That's up to the big good thing.
Oh yeah. For the same reason, we would never do magic against someone to bring harm or revenge. To do so would mean taking on the role of judge and jury and making a determination of the facts, based solely upon your personal opinion. You are not a disinterested party and cannot detach yourself from the matter dispassionately. In all likelihood, your actions will be shaped by your emotions. Given whatever you put out returns to you threefold, this may not go well, and it will be you who suffers.
That does not mean you are not allowed to do protection for yourself. You can absolutely do protection and build a shield so that if somebody else is sending you negative energy, you do not have to receive it. It can bounce off of you. You can do protection magic without thinking that it's bad karmically, right? That doesn't mean you sit there and intentionally send something to somebody. You are just not receiving it.
Yes,
You've
disconnected the doorbell. They can press it as many times as they like. It's not going to have any effect.
One of the things that I do occasionally is ask, more than occasionally, I suppose. But what the heck?
Somebody sent us a super chat.
Well,
thank you. Thank you so much. And it's Sean. Thank you, Sean.
I will ask Caradwin to collect all the negativity, ill will, gossip, bad mouthing, dark magic, anything sent to harm us, that she collect it and turn it into prosperity for us and return the senders only love. Because I don't want to take their bad negative energy, and I don't need to send it back to them because they're probably really in a bad space in the first place to kind of be wishing ill on someone else, right?
Yeah.
If you're that
consumed
or petty, that you can't get out from thinking about harming someone,
your quality of life may leave something
so
to be
you don't
desired.
need to make that person's life worse, but definitely shield yourself from their energy because that's not who you are.
Absolutely.
Summary. In this chapter, we've looked at the process of setting up a magical circle, a place between the worlds, a time without time. We've looked at the steps involved in casting the circle and the reason we would do them. Hopefully you've learned that whatever happens between the worlds affects all the worlds, and as such you must be aware of the consequences of your actions. You can do whatever you want, but you're going to be able to accept the consequences of what you've done.
Yep, you're free to choose, but you're not free to the consequences of your choices.
If all of this is sunk in, you're now ready to take the next and most important step on the path of the craft of the wise, dedication.
And that's where we get up to for the next fun session. And that's going to bring us to the end of the book pretty much, isn't it? Apart from where do we go from here, which is a fairly short chapter.
No, it's not really.
Oh, no, it's not that chapter.
All right, so we got 2 more Mondays left, and then we're going to have to figure out a book.
Something else. So thank you so much for joining us. And remember, I know people say, oh, I don't believe in the threefold law. Ethics don't apply to me. Believe me, they do. You know, you may not believe in gravity, but if you let your cup go, it's going to fall, all right? You know, so it happens. And it is, as Lisa said, if you are that consumed, that petty, that all you're focused on is causing harm and pain to somebody else, where's your energy going? What are you focused on? And you know, it's like holding a hot rock expecting somebody else to be burned, you know? That's what's going on here.
I mean, many times people will do some pretty horrible things, and you'll really be angry or disappointed. But wishing them ill for that only harms you.
Going to bring you to that same place.
We've often said the best revenge is just living well.
Bloody good life, absolutely.
You know, just let them go. They can't get out of their own way, and don't let them bother you.
Love your enemies. It frustrates the hell out of them.
All right.
So
thank you all so much for
much,
joining us.
and thank you for the super chat. That was kind and unexpected and very welcome. So thank you.
And we will decide on the next book or set of books soon.
Yep. We've got, believe me, we have got such an incredible library. We could be here until the next ice age, I think, at this.
I think some people want to make sure they have the book, but
True.
But you know, we're going to read it to you anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the books that we may read may not be in print anymore, but that's the good part, though, isn't it? That's kind of cool. So and I think we've got story time coming up later for
Wednesday
if you're in the Academy of the Occult.
Academy of the Occult gets a story time on Wednesday.
I'll try and figure out something cool. If not, I don't know. I can always go back to The Wise and Foolish Tongue, because that's fantastic.
We've got some books here, the
we
Fairy
got a ton
Tales
of
by
stuff.
R.J. Stewart.
Oh my goodness gracious me. Tons of stuff, lots to.
All right.
So thank you so much. We will go about our business. I'm going to find me some food because I had to come straight back from a meeting. And
then, you haven't had any dinner yet.
I haven't had anything to eat yet, so probably go and get something. Might be a good idea. So thank you.
Peace.
Have a beautiful evening.
Blessed
we'll
be.
see you
See you soon. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.